Hello everyone, this is Jim Delapine, and I'd like to do some tutorials for you using Photoshop CS6. Using this image, I'd like to discuss three very important elements of understanding Photoshop, and you can see that it is comprised of two layers. The subject layer, which has transparent pixels in the background and a woman inside of a flower, and then the background layer. Let's take a look first at channels. So channels, a basic description would be that they are a way to save selections for use at a later period in time. So if I have a selection and I go to save it, and I'm not even going to name it, I'm just going to hit OK. By default, it will be called alpha something. This one was called alpha 1. The new one is called alpha 2, only because by default, it'll be named alpha something. Okay, so I have a named channel here called Green BG. I'm going to delete this channel here. I don't need it. I just wanted to show you that as a demonstration. And here is your alpha channel for the woman inside the flower. Okay, I can rename her. I'll call her girl and go back to RGB to see full color and then back to layers. All right, so if I wanted to load a selection, the traditional way of doing it is go to select, load selection, and then select the appropriate channel to load. Okay, I'm going to deselect that and go back to the channel. The quick way to do it is to simply Control or Command click on the thumbnail icon of the channel, and that will load that selection. Okay, that's nice and quick and easy. All right, so let's talk about what we can do with this. First of all, we're going to create an adjustment layer for the background. So I want to create an adjustment layer, and to do that I'm going to click on this little icon right down here. It has a little black and white slash circle. I'll click on that and I'm going to select one of these. So there's a number of options here. So if I select levels, okay, so this will bring up the levels panel. So what this is telling us is this. This is telling us, based on this black and white gradient here, how many pixels are in this image of a particular value. So if you look right here, there are not too many pixels of a darker value in this range here, but a lot of pixels in this range right here, and extremely few pure white pixels, okay, in this value range right here. So in order to get good contrast and bring those pixels into the image, I'm going to click and drag this slider over to the beginning of our histogram, or the beginning of the incline of this mountain here. Okay, it's a minimal change, but it is a change nonetheless. So if I hide the adjustment layer, you'll see a minor change there. Okay, what it did was it brought the white pixels into the image. All right, so the next step is to create an adjustment layer for the subject layer. Okay, now what I'm going to do is this. I'm going to load this channel here of the girl by control clicking, okay, and I'm going to show you this in two ways. And I'm going to create an adjustment layer based on that selection. So I'm going to go to the adjustment layer icon right at the base here, and notice that my correct layer or subject layer is active, and I'm going to select Use Saturation. Okay, so Use Saturation represents three things. U representing color, saturation representing richness of color, and lightness representing lightness and darkness of an image. Okay, so with that active, notice what happened here. Since I had a selection, it automatically created a layer mask that's attached to the adjustment layer. Okay, so I can make a change here anytime I want. Okay, notice that it's affecting whatever's in that selection. Okay, so I'm going to now trash this layer and start fresh. Okay, without a selection, nothing active, I'm going to create a Use Saturation adjustment layer. And now when I change the U by dragging the slider, it's affecting the entire image. I'm going to make a change here, and I'm going to, let's see, you can actually, this is affecting all colors, so I can actually go in here and designate greens, okay? And I'm going to drag my U slider to, I'll get dramatic here. I'll go all the way down to like 140, 48, okay? So this in effect limits the change because I'm only selecting the greens here. Okay, so let me just drag this to the slide here and show you what happened here. So this affected all of the underlying layers. However, if I clip this, okay, and this is what we're talking about in the assignments here, you want to create a clipping mask. So a clipping mask will attach adjustment layer to an underlying layer. I'm going to do that by using a shortcut. Instead of right-clicking and selecting Create Clipping Mask, I'm going to simply Alt-click. If you're in the Mac environment, it would be Option. I'm going to hover above the line in between and click. So I'm Alt-clicking. Okay, that will attach it to the opaque pixels in the underlying layer. If I hide the upper layer, you'll notice that it's affecting only that layer. Okay. In addition to that, I can also go in and create another adjustment layer that affects only the woman. I'm now going to load that selection by control clicking on the girl and then going back. And now with my subject layer active, not the adjustment layer, I'm going to select the hue saturation layer again. And so now any changes I make will affect only the girl. So if I, let's see, drag the hue slider while under master, let's say -14 or so, and then maybe lighten this up a little bit because she looks a bit sunburned. Okay, let me just drag this to the side, and so that area is now affecting only the woman. Let me zoom in, and you can see here that it's affecting the color of the woman's skin. So before she looked a little yellow, a little unhealthy. I've given her some color. So I can control that further by lowering the transparency of that adjustment layer. Okay, so that is a very important distinction, okay, between having a selection first and creating an adjustment layer and having a selection after the fact. Okay, so let's take this a step further and talk about Quick Mask. So let me show you how I arrived at attaining this selection here, this mask. All right, let me go back to RGB, go back to layers, and zoom into the girl. Okay, I'm going to use the Quick Selection tool. All right, this tool is fantastic. As long as you have a contrasting color, this does a great job at starting the process of selecting something, which is all important in Photoshop. If you can select it, you can edit it. And there's a number of ways of selecting things, and it's usually the ideal way of selecting something is to use a combination of methods. In this case, it's kind of dependent on the brush size, but it's really not that critical. So I have a 10 pixel brush here, and I'm going to use this Quick Selection tool to click and drag inside of this woman. Whoops, now I don't have the correct layers active. I have the adjustment layer active. So let me start over, select the subject layer, and now clicking and dragging, and it snaps to the edges of pixels that have a bit of a contrast, okay? All right, so let me go up here, make sure I get this. I may want to reduce my brush size a little bit because this is a small area in here. All right, let me pick up the green of her bracelet, and it went a little bit too far and picked up this area here. So what I can do is, instead of going up here and selecting the subtract from selection area, I can hold down the Alt key or Option key. The Alt or Option key will subtract from a current selection. So notice the minus sign. Now I'm going to click in the area that I do not want, and that worked pretty well. All right, so now what you want to do is look at this in Quick Mask mode. Before we do, there's a few other areas here I do not want and I do want. So with the plus sign with no keys held down, I'm going to click and drag along the edge of her arm there. Actually, all I needed to do was click. And now I want to subtract this area from inside this selection. So if I hold down the Alt key, click and drag, and that did a pretty good job. All right, and there's one more area of negative space right here. I'll just click. Now, to see your selection true, all right, this is what I always do. I always go into Quick Mask mode. So this is the Quick Mask icon right here. If I click on that, that will bring me into Quick Mask. If I double click, it brings me the Quick Mask Options dialog box, which will allow me to change the color, reverse the selected areas from the masked areas. So if I select this radio button here, click on this dialog box here, and by default you should get red when you initially open this. So let's go back to, let me choose just a different color here. Let me just choose, I'll get dramatic here, I'll choose pink. Alright, so I'll hit OK to that, and OK again. And now when I go back into Quick Mask, I will see the reverse of what I had before because I chose the Quick Mask radio button. Alright, let me exit Quick Mask by clicking again and use the shortcut of Q, just the letter Q. Alright, so we're now in Quick Mask. Now, what Quick Mask does is this. It allows you to create a selection using the paintbrush tools. And this is something I want you guys all to be extremely aware of. The paintbrush. You'll be using this in the layer mask and elsewhere. So when you select the paintbrush, make sure that you click on this button right here, this little drop-down menu. Make sure your hardness is at 100%. All right. If your hardness is at 100%, and I'm in Quick Mask now, it'll create a hard edge. Let me undo that and go back to the hardness and go down to 0, and that result will look like that. All right, so that's the difference. So if you're getting blurred edges around your layer masks, that's the reason. All right, so we want a 100% hardness, and then I'm going to decrease my brush size. In Quick Mask, it works like layer masks. You must have black and white. All right, you could paint with gray, but basically black and white. So I'm painting in this area here. I'm dragging my brush down and painting in the area that I want to, that I missed before. All right. Now, there's a little area here that crept outside into the flower, so if I choose white, I can now click on that area that I don't want. Whoops, my brush mode is in darken. Let me go to normal, and now if I click, I can just remove that. So if I exit Quick Mask by hitting Q, I'll see that selection. Let me go back again, Q, and now if I go through with white, I get that. Quick Mask will give you a selection based on the painting tools. One more little thing in here. I mean, I may just want to come in here. I tend to like to do this. I tend to like to, since I can't see it in this case, I'm going to go over the area. All right, and then swap my foreground and background letters. Colors. You can hit X to do that. And now paint in the areas of her skin. So I'll hit Q, and there we go. I now went to select, save selection, whoops. Select save selection, where is it? Down here. And I'll hit new girl, I'll title it, and hit OK. And then in my channels panel, I see new girl right here. Okay, so if I deselect, so this is the new girl, okay? Notice that the edging is a little rough, but it was done quickly for demonstration purposes. I hope you guys got something out of this. Let me see, I covered channels, Quick Mask, and adjustment layers. And basically, you want to make sure that you also, you can adjust your, let me see how I explain this here. If I create a layer mask for the subject layer, and I go and paint in black, what I'm doing is essentially hiding what's on that layer, showing through the layer below. So this black area hides, all right? The white retains, okay? So keep that in mind. You must use layer masks. I need to see the original image on all documents, okay? So you're bringing the original image in and then cutting out the surrounding area using a layer mask. All right, guys, I hope this helped. Take care.